Hello, welcome back to part 4 of a new approach to teamwork. This particular part deals with the wash-up report and the presentation itself. Let's take a look first at some tips for a presentation. Now, obviously, you can't teach a course in a few minutes on all the things you need to know about PowerPoint. So let me just highlight some of the things you ought to keep in mind as you put together your PowerPoint presentation. First is you want a really high impact PowerPoint. You want to convey enthusiasm and creativity to it. The most common mistake made is that people try to make it a narrative so that they know what to say as they present. Don't do that. If you need to remind yourself of what to say, then write down some notes, have that by your side. But keep the actual slides fairly clean with fairly bold bullets. Now, if you are presenting, say for example, you're presenting economic trends and you've got these complex graphs, and when you put the graphs on the PowerPoint, you know, the typesetting is about this big, and no one can read it. Instead, just make a copy of that and put down, you know, growth trend, smaller employment force, reduction of applicants for new unemployment insurance, larger numbers of people giving up for work. Boom, boom, boom. There's your thing. Now the charts are like detailed government graphs or whatever. Hand those out and use the bullets to just state what the key findings are. So that's the big thing about a PowerPoint itself. The other thing is, as a speaker, if you drone on and you're too serious and you never smile and you don't seem to be enthusiastic, that's going to convey to the audience. So you got to kind of shed your nervousness. Believe it or not, in doing these, I have been very nervous in my presentation, but I hope it doesn't show. Because if I'm nervous, you are going to get nervous as the audience. All right. A wash-up or operations report. The Army is really good at doing this. Although I did most of my active duty and reserve duty in the Navy, now I'm in the State Guard and I'm around all these West Pointers and Citadel grads and generals and stuff, and man, are they really good at analyzing an event or a project and saying, what do we learn from it? Let's modify the original plan and see that we can benefit from the experience or the exercise. So in our teams, the team coordinator and the team leader. Now remember, the coordinator is the person who has created this special journal that kind of is like a log or a chronology or a history of who does what, when did we meet, when did we put up discussion boards, who were the people that participated in it. That's a diary, if you will, of activities. Now, the other thing that the leader, team leader, and the coordinator are going to talk about over the phone or whatever, they don't have to do this face by face, but the strengths and weaknesses of the team itself. Who did what, and how could the outcome have been improved? Very important. The improvement of outcome is probably based on the rubrics that are used, the information that is gathered, the rubric for the business research memo, the one for presentations, and you're going to have a copy of that in the teamwork manual. Whether your professors choose to use it or not is another story, but I hope they will. We all understand by now that the client wants more value than what they paid for. They want to be impressed. They want to be surprised. They want to see, hey, I didn't think of this when I asked the questions, and here they've given me some useful information. So the more research, the better. I cannot emphasize that. A lot of people say, well, the professor asked for 4 references, so I gave him 4. Nonsense. Give them 8, give them 10. Because the more research you give, the more strategies or options you can come up with. You know, life is not a Scantron with only 4 choices. You want to give people as many options as possible, and then they can decide which they're more comfortable in implementing. So, the final report also has got to look good. It needs to include all the sources, the articles themselves, highlighted in a little tab, tab A, B, C, D, and bound in a professional manner. The other thing that's tremendously important is, what do you do with the resources, the articles and things that you didn't cite or write about? Well, I recommend that if there's not enough space in your report, then at least summarize each article in one sort of sentence. This article deals with strategies to improve employment opportunities, or new strategies on social media that are less common, social media platforms that you might consider using. That kind of thing. Very simple. And then explain what value it could add either now or in the future. We address this article may be useful in the future because although these are not big social media outlets at the moment, they may grow and become popular, so just to make you aware of that. Team assessment. All right, we've talked about this. Each team member is going to use a rubric, evaluate themselves, and then evaluate how much each other team member contributed to the outcome. Now, there's a listing of questions. One of the questions is, well, how much time did each person spend? But that isn't the determining thing. It's only one out of that 10 or 15 questions. What's really important is the contribution outcome. Obviously, the client ultimately determines whether they are happy and how happy they are with the service or product rendered. Same thing with the professor. But that professor and client are going to use the same criteria. Did the team produce a set of options based on credible research that exceeded their expectations? Now, the consequences of this assessment is very important because you will get a team grade, but individuals on the team could have a 40-point range, 40-point range in what they earned as being a team member. This is what is different about this system than the typical academic, well, everybody gets the same grade, whether they deserved it or not. That doesn't happen in the real world. That's the important thing to know. In the real world, your supervisor is evaluating you compared to others, and they're looking for your potential. Is this person capable of personal growth? Are they creative? Do they work well with others? Do they have leadership abilities? If that person evaluates themselves as all A's and everybody else is a dummy, are they really capable of good leadership? So, you're not going to be promoted to a supervisor position if you just say, oh, everybody earns an A. Because that's not life. You know, there's 1 or 2 people on a football team that scored the final goal, and they're the ones that get all the press and the better contracts the following year. So it's very important to be realistic about teamwork and your evaluation of yourself. Now, we talk about revealing emotional intelligence. You see, the closer your self-evaluation is to what others think of you, that means that you're in touch with them. And we call that emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence requires that you understand and know yourself, and that you pick up on verbal and nonverbal cues as to how you respond and interact to others. It's really emotional intelligence is the ability to control your emotional responses towards others. If somebody is rolling their eyes and looks bored with what you're saying, cut it off. Be receptive to criticism. Well, that's not very useful. Okay, instead of saying, well, why not? You just don't like me. That kind of immature response doesn't make for a good teammate, does it? So you want to develop your ability to work effectively in a team, and it takes emotional intelligence. As a matter of fact, the research now shows that emotional intelligence is actually more valuable to your career than just raw IQ. And why is that? Because there are a lot of people with really high IQs, and much to my surprise, those are the people who suffer with a manic depression, with stress, and other forms of mental illness. Now, it doesn't mean that there are not people with low IQs that have these issues too, but it's very surprising how many people with really high IQs have those issues. So having good emotional intelligence is really an important skill, not only for teamwork, but for overall success in a business career. So that's why I've talked a little bit about IQ versus EQ, and this whole process of participating and being educated as to how to be an effective team member and how to organize it, I think is going to improve your own EQ. So my question to you is, after these 4 things, do you feel you're ready to participate in a team? And instead of having a frustrating experience in a teamwork environment, do you think that if you understand your core values, your goals, your time commitments, if you understand that not only of you but of your teammates, if you understand how important emotional intelligence is, an attitude, positive attitude, okay, let's have fun with this, let's use technology, let's try to exceed expectations instead of the minimalist, okay, what do I do to get by and get through this course? Then you're going to be positioning yourself for the new employment realities. Virtual organizations where you're employed not for your brawn, but for your brain. And solving problems for your customers. I hope this helps. Thank you so much for watching this, and I appreciate any feedback you can give me to improve future versions of this. Thanks again.